Joining me right now is former acting director of Homeland Security, Secretary, and Heritage Foundation visiting fellow, Chad Wolf. Chad, great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being here. It's just incredible how things seem to get worse every day. Your reaction to what Governor Abbott is doing to try to protect his state from what we know is happening, human trafficking and illicit narcotics coming into this country, and some hundreds of thousands of gotaways.
Well, I think the governor's doing the right thing, Maria. And what it shows is that the results of the Biden border crisis is actually bared on those communities closest to the border. So communities in Texas and Arizona, New Mexico, and California, those are the individuals and those are the communities that are bearing the brunt of what you just said, the human trafficking, the criminal activity, the drugs, and all the migrants that are coming across that border. And they're having to absorb that and respond to that. And I think what the governor's declaration says is that we're overwhelmed. Communities in Texas are overwhelmed by this criminal activity, the amount of housing, the amount of social services and everything else that goes along there. And they're tired of it. And they want the border secure. They want the laws enforced along that border. They want individuals, if they cross illegally, they want them to be apprehended and removed. And we know that's not the current policy of the Biden administration. And I think the governor is right to take these actions, and we need to see more of this along the border.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the policy at all. It's quite the opposite. The administration yesterday said it was formally ending the Trump-era Remain in Mexico policy. That sent asylum seekers back to Mexico to wait for their court dates in the United States. Now it's formal. We knew it was coming. Do things get even worse now that Remain in Mexico is officially dead?
Well, they certainly could. I mean, that program, the Biden administration essentially killed that program several months ago. This is the formal way to do that. And it's probably the most disastrous step that they have taken that has created this border crisis, because what it did is it allowed us to have individuals staying in Mexico while they applied for their asylum proceedings. And so that had a number of positive steps. It not only sped up the process before COVID, but it also rooted out fraud. And I would say these were international agreements that we had with Mexico and others. And if the Biden administration wanted to see improvements, they should have improved that. They should have improved conditions in Mexico instead of throwing that whole program out simply because it was done under the Trump administration. It was short-sighted, and it has caused mainly this surge and this crisis that we see today, unfortunately.
So, Chad, there are new reports this morning that say Vice President Kamala Harris's staff is working to distance her from the border crisis. The vice president and her staff making clear she does not manage the southern border. White House officials say Harris and her aides have internally emphasized their focus on conditions in Central America that push migrants to the United States. Meanwhile, we've got this child who was left behind, new video, a 5-year-old boy begging smugglers, these criminal cartels, to please not leave him at the Texas border, which is exactly what they did. Watch this. Got to get your reaction. This is so troubling. This happened in El Paso. Border Patrol agents picked up the boy. Minutes later, your reaction to this, and what do you think happened here? You've seen lots of stories like this. What do you think happened that made this boy cry?
Well, it's heartbreaking, and we've seen other video like this of children being dropped over the wall. And I will tell you, it's a direct result, and I can't say that strong enough, a direct result of the policies that the Biden and the messaging that the Biden administration has done over the last 4.5 months. They have made it okay. They have sent a signal to cartels and smugglers and traffickers that it's okay to send minors, to send family units across that border because they are here to stay. And they've sent that demand signal, and now we're seeing the results of it with video like this, Maria, and others. Instead of, and that's a very inhumane policy. I've said this before. The humane policy is actually enforcing the law, making sure that these individuals do not come to the U.S., do not subject themselves to a very dangerous journey, perhaps being left out in the desert and the like. And so it's very, very concerning to me what is going on here. And other than Fox and a few others, we're really not talking about what the policies of the Biden administration are actually doing to these children coming up through Mexico on a 2,000-mile journey.
And we know that the Biden administration makes it clear that if you have a child 5 years old, anything less than 6 or 8 years old, you will be able to get in and you'll have legal status for a time until you meet with a judge. And so when I was there, pretty much most of the people that I saw coming into Texas had a baby. We don't know if it was actually their baby, but they had a child because they know that there are no consequences if you show up to the border with a child. So what about Kamala Harris? She doesn't want anything to do with this.
Well, it's unfortunately that neither the vice president nor the president has visited the border in such a historic crisis, numbers that we have not seen in over 20 years. And neither leadership positions in the federal government have been down to that border to talk about it. Look, if the vice president's going to talk about root causes of migration with the Northern Triangle, with Mexico and others, that's fine. But you've got to visit the border. You've got to understand what men and women of Border Patrol and law enforcement are dealing with. You may even want to talk to some of the migrants and ask them specifically why they're making this trek. Why do they want to come here? Are they actually fleeing for their lives? Are they seeking asylum, or is it more of an economic issue? You need to be on the ground, on the border, talking to those folks to understand what you can do long term. But I've always said there's two different issues going on. You need to solve the crisis today. You can talk about root causes, but that's a 4, 5, 6, 7 year problem that's going to continue to persist. The crisis is here today. It needs to be solved. There needs to be leadership. They need to go down to the border and see what's going on there.